All right. Good morning, everyone. Youngstown's Talk Channel, Joe and Kelin in the morning. And Nikola Tesla died on this day.
Nikola Tesla.
My hero.
I saw you posted that on Facebook.
86 years old. One of the most influential characters in Joe's life.
Yeah.
And so much inspiration. So talk a little bit about hero worship and the people that you choose throughout history to not only, celebrate, but also emulate. And so mine is Nikola, and I'll give you some history on him. Give me some of your emulation heroes and why you picked them and why they're influential.
So I don't know if I would say this is a hero of mine, but somebody that is a historical figure, not just a celebrity, that I have found interesting since a child was Helen Keller.
Okay.
I started learning about her as a kid, read a book, did a book report or something on her. And it was just fascinating that someone could excel later in life and succeed and become so well known, minus their sight, minus their hearing, minus their ability to speak, having to learn everything in such a unique way, and then becoming so much more successful than some people that have all their senses and every opportunity. And it's just, I don't know if you know much about her or how she learned, but it's fascinating, I think.
Nikola and Helen Keller are very similar in the perspective they bring to why you should be celebrating them.
Yeah.
Okay. Same with Einstein, same with Steve Jobs. And they all did one thing, a common accelerator of success, and is the shifting of paradigms and perspectives. Some forced, right? I don't think, anybody would deprive their senses to get different outlook on things and have to develop skills in other directions.
Yeah.
You had Nikola Tesla, who looked through his imagination and having things, Einstein was probably the most famous for telling you outwardly that this is how he was doing things. If I was riding on a train traveling at the speed of light, what would the world look like? Well, that's a paradigm shift because now you have different eyes on it. We're on purpose changing the world. Instead of looking at it through interpretive lens, the same information that everybody else has, you're looking and getting new information that nobody's even freaking looking at just by shifting a couple degrees on how you look at the world.
Yeah. And I wonder, it would be so fascinating to sort of, I don't know, even temporarily experience things how they experienced it. And
so what's the influence then? You have an appreciation, but what about influence?
Yeah. I don't know. It's sort of just it kind of gives me this mindset of anytime you think something is just too hard or just unachievable or not worth pursuing or even trying, it's almost like one of these people that in the back of your mind, you're thinking or looking at you like, really? Really? Oh, that must be tough for you because I did it blind and deaf and unable to speak and unable to communicate. And all these things, it's sort of it gives you a perspective either to motivate, to keep you going, to influence you.
And has it affected you? Do you plaster a poster of
No, honestly, I don't think about her much until
when you're complaining about something that's mundane that keeps you from getting to where you want to get to. You're like, Helen Keller wouldn't have given up. She would have not had sight. So
yeah, anybody and anybody that has overcome something tremendous. I don't know if you know much about Temple Grandin and how her brain works. And there's been a movie that Claire Danes did that sort of was a visual representation of how Temple Grandin's mind worked and how different it was from maybe how a lot of other people's mind works. And you're like, man, that's a whole other perspective we don't even consider. And look what you can do with that. And it's interesting.
Justin says, hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. And then Joe, didn't Trump's grandfather steal Tesla's documents that could have changed the world? So here's the deal. Okay. So I've read every accounting of the latter parts of Tesla's life. Okay. He started out very traditionally innovating products that exist, working things from his imagination, working with electricity, working with the magnetosphere. Really having a lot of practical utility uses for the sciences that he was dabbling. Later in life, he started dabbling in more idealistic things that didn't have a practical use, but he was experimenting. So the Wardenclyffe Towers, have you ever heard of that story?
I think you told me about the swaying or something.
No. This is he got funding to build a tower in New York. Okay, great big needle-looking thing. And his theory was that we harness the energies that are already surrounding us, the things that are in the atmosphere, the things that are in the ground, and being able to distribute electricity by just taking it. Okay, so the atmosphere protects us from all of these immense amount of energies, right? If the energies that came at us actually made it to the ground, we'd all be fried and dead. So the atmosphere protects us and distributes that energy and dumps it off at the poles and shifts it off to space. Well, Tesla was like, hey, it's already up there. Can we somehow get it from what's already here instead of having to generate it through fossil fuels, grab what's already naturally occurring in the atmosphere? Great in theory, right? And there was a lot of advancement that he made with focusing that energy in the form of early lasers or early particle beams, and a lot of usages that if you took a guy that was fascinated by the curiosities of what he could do and then hand it over to people that could use it for their own, ends, which in the Industrial Revolution, that's where we were at. I mean, there were a lot of industrialists who were opportunists rather than scientists. So towards the end of his life, he had a lot of things that he was studying. Like if I had a laser beam that I can create, that would be a weapon of war that would be
sharks with laser beams on their heads.
Sure. And if you could basically get free energy and I could set up an antenna on my house and just capture what's flowing around me, I wouldn't need any power companies or, the guy that created the dynamos or having geothermal or electricity at the dam, right?
Yeah.
So he was a disruptor, which meant that there were a lot of things that could have just disrupted commerce. So he had a lot of enemies that didn't want him to find half of the stuff that he was seeking for.
Like, don't find natural ways that are remedies when we can sell you products.
So if he basically he had an agreement when he was working with a banker, and there was a lot of players that we know today that were working between Thomas Edison and Nikola Tesla, who were kind of rivals. Like they didn't like each other too much. Yeah. And the financiers at the time that were bankrolling all of these advancements, one was friends with Tesla and one was friends with Edison. And the one that was friends with Tesla, he had an agreement with a licensing agreement to produce the technology that would make the power generation that was competing against Edison. And there were hard times in that industry, and he ripped up his royalties from developing the technology. So he could have been trillions of dollars deep if those royalties would have been. But he rescued somebody who believed in him and gave up all financial, right?
Wow.
So then this dude, Tesla was now broke and destitute and had no money. So this dude put him up in a hotel room for the latter parts of his life. So he lived in a hotel room for the rest of his life, fell in love with a pigeon, did more of the imaginative research. And
fell in love with a pigeon.
Fell in love.
It's not just glazed past that. Fell in love with a pigeon.
Tesla said he loved that pigeon like a man loves a woman. That was a quote, direct quote from the latter life of Nikola Tesla.
Do you think he was aware that he was becoming senile or losing his mind?
I don't consider it senile.
Okay.
I don't. I think when you start shifting that paradigm and looking through the world differently, you lose a grasp of what the realities that everybody else is living in. So like when you go there...
You just said he lost grasp of reality.
On purpose, though. It wasn't against his will. He went there willingly because if a guy can, like in his imagination, he can conjure up a design for a machine, perfectly imagine it, and then real life just takes the imagination and puts it right down on paper, right? He's going to a place that you and I don't go to. He has a special gift that he is more competent when he goes to the place in his imagination than when he's in the real world. He didn't do real well in the real world. So you can't blame a guy for going to the gifted place that he has access to, almost like Helen Keller. Helen Keller went to her imagination and created using information that you and I don't have access to. So if that treated Helen Keller well and she went there, you wouldn't say that she's deluded or went senile. She went to a place that she had access to and she thrived in that place. His love for a pigeon doesn't deprive you of anything. I mean, are you trying to say that human relations are better than pigeon relations? Is that what you're throwing out there?
Yes.
Yes. Now,
But-
I guess the eventual bloodline was a little bit, of a sacrifice.
Yeah, I mean that. Listen, we could. I was just gonna say,
Dude,
I was just gonna say we could discuss the difficulties in the physical relationship and how that would work.
It doesn't have to be about sex. You can have a relationship with a pigeon without going to sex.
Listen, I'm just wondering if he knew that was unusual.
Only unusual in comparison, and his job
So
wasn't to.
yes.
What?
Did he know? Was he like,
Doesn't matter.
This is really probably socially different.
If I fell in love with my AI girlfriend, wouldn't be you.
First of all, I would not at all be shocked
Okay.
or surprised.
But you would try to convince me, but you can't touch her. And I'd be like, it's not about
I think you
physical
were
touch.
weird.
That's
Dur.
fine. That's fine.
Then
That's fine.
you already.
If you take what he was able to create, even if he went to that fantastical imagination land, in comparison to the utility of normies who don't ever go there, I'm going to say that he beat you. He beat most people.
I mean, we know of people that fall in love with AI and technology and inanimate objects. And do we not say they are like mentally unwell?
No, only in comparison.
So you would think they're just tapping into other resources
a
and ways
different
of
angle
thinking.
on a different dimension of thinking. Yes.
So the people that are like attracted to children and they say, I'm just on a whole other dimension than you guys.
Yeah, that's a checkmate that I don't have an answer
Yeah.
for. So
Twice in my life. Twice I got
don't have
Joe
an answer to
Danyi.
that one. Remember that song, Do the Helen Keller and Talk with Your Hips? I do
Do
not.
the Helen Keller and talk with your hips.
That's just stupid language.
That's
stupid language there. Let's not get distracted
Come
here
on,
with pigeon love.
Thanks
And
for
Helen
making
Keller
me sit here now
dances.
and think of that freaking
Let's
song.
get back to the real talk with the impact and the
Helen
influence that people
and
who
talk
can
with
do
your
dimensional thinking and still do great things with it. Now, there was a lot of cryptic talk. And to get back to the original question, whether or not Trump's grandfather stole, I think everybody stole Nikola Tesla's work. When it comes to Marconi, all the patents that he didn't enforce, the royalties that he didn't accept, and then just the plans that, if the guy's developing things like weapons of war, the government and the military would absolutely take those documents and put them in the archive for all time. Because I don't think even if you took Tesla's plans, today's people could even do anything with them because they're not in the imaginative space that he was in when he was designing them or thinking what the works were.
303, don't trust me. Okay. Thank you. Don't trust
Stupid.
me.
Like, all right, let's get back to my hero, Nikola Tesla then.
Yeah.
So anyway, the influences of people like Steve Jobs. And when you study these people, if you really want to take aim at what they did wrong, like fall in love with a pigeon or be a dominating, what did he call himself?
Thought you were going to say be a dominatrix.
No, not a dominator. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know how that.
No judgment.
expressed.
Judgment-free zone.
But anyway, none of them. What would what you would consider someone who tried to be a normie at all? Like their distinctive qualities were, or distinguishing qualities was how outside the norm and status quo that they lived their entire lives, and that has a cost and consequence. So the cost and consequence of being normal is that you suffer mediocrity for your entire life and you have small achievements that you over celebrate. And then the cost and consequences of living in that delusional imaginative space is that you don't fit in, but you achieve all of this greatness, but it square peg, round hole type of thing where it's hard to affect enough change unless you exceed Elon Musk greatness or Steve Jobs greatness or Nikola Tesla greatness.
And normal is kind of relative too. Maybe it should be you're not common, you're not usual, you're unusual.
Yes.
That could
By
be
design.
his normal. Maybe he's like, I'm normal and you're all inept. Could be how he sees things.
Yeah. And once you get that perspective, in Idiocracy, a quote from Idiocracy, do you think Einstein walked around saying these people were a bunch of dumb shits? And I bet you that has a lot of wisdom in it that once you achieve that level, you can't even communicate with other people because they're talking about what they ate for breakfast and you're talking about harnessing energy from the magnetosphere.
Yeah.
That's the kind of separation that, you're trying to achieve, but yet you separate from the rest of the people, the rest of the flock.
Have you watched Big Bang Theory yet?
No.
Oh my
I
God,
can't get
Joe.
myself to it, man.
You are so much like Sheldon Cooper.
Yes.
It's ridiculous. But yeah, it's that mindset, and kind of like how some people think small talk is
Stupid.
Uncomfortable and weird
Really
and
awful.
stupid,
Yeah.
and like niceties are just unnecessary, and other people are like, hey, listen to this freaking molecular energy field of flux capacitors that
Oh, my goodness.
are around us, and why are we not discussing that? Is that
Right.
kind of how your
Yes.
brain works?
Yes, so many wasted meat suits out there.
You're
so
like, who
many
cares
capable
about
brains.
303 song Don't Trust Me when there's Nikola Tesla?
Yeah, when there's so much stuff that we have to do, like talking about level 0 civilizations versus a level 1, right? A level 2. Like, where do you think we are on the
Level 0.
there's 5 levels of civilizations.
I didn't even know that.
And what do you think we are? 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4?
Is it the higher you go, the more advanced you
Yes.
are? Okay, so then I'd say maybe we're a 3.
We're 0.
What?
We're a 0.
Oh crap,
Yeah.
that's not good.
Yeah. First level is that we figure out how to harness all of the naturally occurring energy in our on our planet. Wind, geothermal, solar, magnetic, everything that there is to harness. We have an efficiency rate on harnessing energy near 100%.
Oh, because we've like tapped into that, wouldn't you say?
No.
We're like
Not
kind
even
of harnessing.
effing close. Not even effing close.
We're not at all harnessing.
No. Well, harnessing means that you're in control. Like when you harness a horse, it means where the horse goes, you have control of. You have a domination over the thing. And we are not dominating the naturally occurring energy.
We're dabbling, not
Tesla was
dominating.
close, right? He was getting there. He was like, oh, there's free flowing stuff right above us, and we're burning shit and boiling water to get our energy. Let's go get that stuff up there. So he was close, but we're not even working on it anymore, as far as I'm concerned. We are so far behind where we could be at this point because we had high level thinkers are off the job. And we have low level thinkers who are at the controls.
So my normie brain is visualizing. This weekend, the Truman Show was on. Have you ever seen that with Jim Carrey?
Yeah.
So in that movie, if anyone for some reason hasn't seen the Truman Show, his entire world is controlled.
Yeah.
Are you saying almost to that, it was meant to be like a movie set, but to that level where we affect the weather, we affect the sunrise, we affect
Not
everything.
I'm not saying on the other side. I'm saying there is naturally occurring energy, thermal energy, magnetic energy. There's photons. There's all kind of things that are usable energies. And harnessing them means that when you get a photon, you find the most amount of efficiency to turn it into usable energy here, whether or not it's heating homes or powering the electric grid or running computers or whatever.
Because again, I mean, we use things like solar energy, and we do what's it called when we can like make it rain? What is that called?
Cloud seeding?
Yes, cloud seeding, and I feel like we're like dabbling in this, don't you think?
No, we're not close.
Not even
We were on a
close.
trajectory in the early 1900s, and by the 1970s, like we got so distracted with our industry that we stopped working on it. We had China that bought up all the stole all the technologies and removed all of the factors that would have developed solar production. Then we got enamored with environmentalism, and now windmills aren't energy creators, they're political statements, and we ruined everything because it's not about all of those things. It's about harnessing the naturally occurring energy that's here. If you have a fusion reactor in the sky that's creating a ton of heat and electrical energy, solar energy, and when it makes it here, our planet is diffusing that energy, so it's hard to collect it. It's spreading it out and separating it so we don't die.
Yeah,
right.
I would say by design.
Yeah. And then we were like, oh, well, up there we can get to it, but since we're down here, we can't get to it. you ever see the space elevator theories?
I don't think so.
Okay. So if you get above our atmosphere, then you could start doing with things in space. Rocket launches are expensive because we got to have a immense amount of combustion to be able to get out. Earth's atmosphere is pretty rough, right?
Yeah.
And so that's the expensive part of getting out into space where you're close enough to the sun to start harvesting its energy. So space elevator was like, let's put a tether. Let's put this base on the ground, big concrete base, and some kind of tether and fly it up past the atmosphere and put a counterweight out there, right?
Yeah.
And so you have this thing that's suspended in air, and the counterweight in space is basically keeping the tether taut. And so you have this thing that's spinning around at the same cycle of the Earth. Now you can start using the tether to ascend above the atmosphere. And then you start building solar panels that are above that. And instead of getting diffused light, you're getting straight above the atmosphere light. And you can do a lot more with the energy and pipe it down through that tether. So that's why I see things, if we should have had that already, because that's very analog. It's not using lasers, and it's not using, projecting the energy down using satellites or anything like that. Now we're beyond that. We didn't do that.
I said we don't have this?
We don't have that. But the fear was that if you had instability and you had this tether, and let's just say it went unstable, now you have this huge tether that's wildly slapping against the Earth and destroying things and people, and nobody wanted that out. So now we're going to have this these satellites that are around Earth, put some solar panels on them, and use lasers to be able to take the concentrated collected energy and beam it down to receiving stations that are on the ground. And now you don't have the inefficiencies of our atmosphere that break up all that energy. So that is today's version of the space elevator. We got to get above the clouds, above the atmosphere to harness some of that stuff that's already hitting the Earth. And we already got a ton of satellites up there. Might as well use them to focus energy down to the ground.
Do you think that some people more than others can utilize, affect, interact with somehow energy here, like energy around us and things of that nature? Like, it's going to be a silly question.
Yeah.
Have you heard of when people say, like, harness your chi?
Yeah.
What is your chi exactly?
It's the same thing we were talking about with Tesla. When you break out of the normal perceptions and change the angle, there's information out there that you won't be able to see because it's subtle and quiet. And there are people that can go to those imaginative places and collect information that you don't have. So when you take Helen Keller and say, well, she didn't have visual information, she didn't have auditory information, how did she construct things? She had access to information that was quieter, but she didn't have the distractions of the loud audio and visual information. She was able to see and harness information that you and I don't. It's not that we don't have access to it. It's our lives and our world are too bright and shiny in order to pay attention to the quieter things that Helen Keller had access to. It's the same thing.
I keep, I need to go back actually and look at this. I can't even remember what it's called, but I know I've told you about this before. There were some researchers looking into this group of, I don't remember if they were a kid. I think they were kids that were all on the autism spectrum that seemed as though they could communicate with each other telepathically.
Sure.
They would be in totally different states. They had even something, it was called like the meetup or something. It was almost described as like a invisible chat room that they could all tap into from different states, different parts of the country, and tell other people what someone else was saying or thinking or doing, and with accuracy.
Yeah.
And they were like, something about the way their brains work. Mm-hmm. They are tuning out distractions that we have and focusing on things we can't.
Right.
And some people are like, oh, this is fake, that this isn't true, and this is all magic. And it's like, not magic, real thing. They're doing it. I got to look into this some more. So you think this is an actual like
it is.
possibility?
It 100% is. If you study quantum, you know that if you can entangle particles and time and space does not matter, they are entangled. They information exposure. If you have a positive charge and a negative charge and you apply to one and the other one responds accordingly, no matter how far away and how much time, right?
Yeah.
Then those entanglements mean that from a atomic scale or a really low level scale, that stuff is possible. If you arrange it and sort of like curate it, you could. How does remote viewing work? How can some people travel to a place with their bodies? They do it with their mind, and they tap into information that nobody else has.
I mean, some people don't believe in that. Some people think that's just a magic trick.
Right.
But you say it is true that
what is it's been proven out in science. The matter is, how do you get access to it? So let's just say you had to, if you could on purpose break your brain. So I'm going to be like, hey, you can go take this autism pill and go get yourself a little autism. Just take a bunch of Tylenol. And now you've got autism and you're like, oh, now I have access to it. Would you be willing to give up normie brain to go and dabble on the autism spectrum to go get yourself the same information? What I think what people want to do is like, I don't want to break my brain, but I want to see the world from the same perspective that people like Helen Keller and Nikola Tesla had access to. And that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
It's not possible.
It could be described to you, but you're not going to experience it.
Right.
Really.
Yeah. Because we're bought in to the normal capacities of our brain, and to develop into the areas where those people developed into, there's a cost and consequence. And I don't think you get there without that cost and consequence.
One of my really good friends, for as long as I've known him, since, we were in school, has always been different. He's a lot like you. He's very...
Wait, did you just underhandedly call me different?
Are you not different?
True.
Yes.
True statement.
He's very intelligent. He's very interested in things that other people probably don't think about. Like you said, the small talk, the social interactions are just weird for him. He's always just been more into like really intellectual conversations and topics, and more socially awkward, extremely huge brain. And it wasn't until, he's almost 40 now. Maybe in the last couple of years of adulthood, he has said, I think I may be on the autism spectrum. And as he learns more about things, he's like, this would make sense how his brain works, and things that, he sort of gets almost obsessed with and can't come out of that, and different routines that become very sort of, they have like strongholds on him, but his brain is just, again, he's kind of another Sheldon Cooper. And wow, if I could get you two together, I would just like observe all day long.
Yeah, and that's just a social pressure. And I say autism like breaking brain, but my feelings about it are developed skills. But I think normies want to like classify bigger abilities as a disease of some kind, of something they want to avoid. Like if I suggested to you that you can go get yourself a superpower, you could fly if you take this pill, you wouldn't be like, oh, you have the flying disease, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I was just thinking too, we got to be careful with the internet. It's not that your brain is broken, it's different.
Yeah. Well, but when I say breaking, it means that I'm changing its shape from what normal brain is, giving it new capabilities. So you are breaking the mold of normal so it can extend into areas where you can develop a skill. That's breaking the brain.
You think that's why Elon Musk is the way he is and thinks differently and sees things
on
differently?
Purpose. It's a practice skill. Yeah. Yeah. And I think some people will develop accidentally, and some people, just like any other tendency, some people are better at one thing and not the other. They have a natural gift and they were given that ability and have those tendencies because of how they were born in genetics. And I think some people were born with that skill set and they didn't really have to practice or develop. They just have it. Whether or not it's someone who, gets a sense for information on more of a spiritual level and they just can interpret it easier than you. And they didn't really earn that ability. They just kind of came to them and they courted it and were open to it. And then other people who had no ability, like if I said to you, I want you to develop the skill of remote viewing, right? A real thing that some people can do.
I've watched YouTube videos about it.
I want you to develop the skill. Like a normal brain, we're like, well, what do I have to do to develop this skill?
Yeah.
Right. And maybe it's, if I said like 10 years of doing this and then you will be able to remote view, would you be willing to condition your brain over the course of a long period of time and then you can remote view?
I'd be curious. Yeah. Okay. I would say, am I going to lose anything by changing this?
I absolutely will.
Yeah. And it would have to be, what am I going to lose versus
so it's got to be reserved
gain?
For the people who have, parallel abilities with somewhat normal abilities, so that whatever they do, like if I went in and started telling you about my remote viewing, right, and I'm telling you it's authentic, I've been there, whatever, how much skepticism would you have in other people? You'd be a little bit more open than normal people, but I would be
I'd
an
be
insane
curious.
person, right?
Yeah. Honestly, if I didn't know you and you said some of the things you said, I'd probably think you were an insane person.
Yeah.
It's more like I got to know you and then heard the insane things and was like, you know what? He's probably legit when he says that.
Right.
Have you ever seen the videos? Oh my gosh, I've been served like reels online that are in black and white, and it's somebody holding either like 3 stones, 3 crystals, 3 rocks, whatever, and they're in black and white, and it says, "Use your intuition. You know what color these are. What color are these?" And you just watch it, and then at the end of so many seconds, the color comes on, and you see if you were right. The first time I ever did it, first time, I'm like, purple, green, blue. Color came on, purple, green, blue. 3 for 3. And I went, holy shit. And never got it right again. Just that one time. Coincidence?
Yes.
Or did I use my intuition?
Okay. So let me explain the access of information to you. Because this is sort of like on a very primitive level, but it's the same thing. Access to information. There is information in front of you right now that either you're not paying attention to, you don't know why you should be paying attention to it, or it doesn't seem like it's relevant, right?
Yeah.
So I used to go to casinos and I used to do blackjack.
Card counting?
As a advantage player, I will call it.
I feel like this is a movie.
Now, could you also do it?
No.
And you would say, yes, you totally could.
Okay, maybe.
Through a practice, you could do it. So you see the movie 21?
Is that the movie I'm thinking of?
Yeah.
I never saw it, but I've heard of it.
Okay. So a bunch of college kids that are really good at math.
Yeah.
Right? They bring them in front of a deck of cards and they practice getting their brain on a subconscious level to pay attention to information that's right in front of them. So if you know how card counting work, it's probabilities is what it is.
Okay.
Okay. And so what you're doing is the blackjack table reveals information to you with like every card that's in the deck. So if you knew how many cards were in the deck and what was in those, and ones that are good and ones that are bad, cards that are good and cards that are bad, or not even good, bad, like advantage to you in the moment. So if you need a low card and you know there's a high probability that there's a lot of low cards, you know that you're likely to get a low card, or vice versa. If a high card helps you, that it's the same thing. So all you're doing is you're collecting information that everybody else is missing. So like when I put a 6 on the table, or I put a 2 on the table, or I put a jack on the table, all you have to do is remember that it was on the table. Now you have information that somebody who wasn't looking at the cards has access to, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the whole premise. That's an easy, primitive version of collecting information that's right in front of you that normal people aren't paying attention to, but you are, and now you have an advantage.
Like that mentalist guy we've talked about.
Yeah, exactly.
He
paying attention to subtleties that's right in front of you.
That's what he is. He's like, nothing I do is magic and everybody can do it.
Yeah.
It's just, I read people. I have learned how to read people. I have learned about what do most people do.
So how would you practice abilities to collect subtle information that may or may not lead to an outcome for any utility purposes? So my kid invented a couple of card games, memorization games. And basically, in 21, they took a deck of cards and they went boom, 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 boom. What's your count? Right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, I don't know. But if I did it slow one at a time, and your brain got used to seeing a jack and it was a +1, and your brain got used to seeing a 2 and it was a -1, you could do simple math of adding small integers very quickly. All right, let's do it real quick.
Oh my God, I'm terrible at math.
All right, I'm going to give you an integer and you add it.
I don't even know what an integer is.
I'm going to give you a number,
okay,
and I'm going to say -1 +1, and I want you to keep the answer flowing, right?
I'm sweating. I'm the worst person to do this on.
1.
Okay.
What's your integer?
I'm already
+1. We started at 0, +1.
Okay. You're saying plus is the number went up in value?
Yes, +1.
Okay, +1. What? Oh, 2? I don't understand what we're doing.
Start at 0,
okay,
right? And I'm going to say +1. So 0 + 1 is
1.
1. -2.
I'm minusing -2 from 1?
Yeah.
-1.
1,
I'm adding 1. 1.
3,
4.
-2,
2.
-5,
Oh, Jesus. -3.
3 plus 3,
0.
1,
1.
-2,
-1.
3,
2.
6. I went a little above on that.
Oh my God. 7.
Okay, so if you do this long enough,
the
your
best
brain
math
just
skills
gets
I've ever
good
had.
at adding a plus 1 or 0 through 4 and a -0 through 4, right? And you get good at just keeping that sum, that total, and then they shuffle the decks and you start at 0 again, and you just add a couple numbers and minus a couple of numbers, and depending on where you're situated, right? You know, if it's a negative number, something is really likely to happen. The deeper it is into a negative number, you know that a higher probability. And if it's a positive number, a deep positive number, you know that the other thing is likely and probable. And so when you're making a decision about, ooh, what's that card going to be, right?
Mhm.
The only information you have, you don't know what cards came out because you don't care. You only know that you have a plus value that's either really big or really small, or a negative value. And when you get at a huge plus value, you make different decisions than when you get a plus or a big negative value, and now you're an advantage player. You just got to get good at adding and subtracting from that overall number.
Are you good when you play cards with people?
So good.
You dominate.
So good. And really, I'm just using information that's readily available to everybody. I just pay attention to it more. And I got good at adding small integers.
Do you go gamble often?
I used to. I used to. My wife and I would go up to Canada, and we'd go up with $50, just enough to get gas up there and back. And we'd play blackjack until we got to about $1,000, and then we'd go do tourist things, and then we come back. Problem was with advantage players, it's really easy to notice that an advantage player is doing their thing because they're really erratic decision making. And for a while, like sometimes it would take us an hour to get to $1,000, and then we were just out. Sometimes it would take 4 hours to get to $1,000, and then we were out. And the quicker that you get to $1,000, the more the pit bosses are paying attention to what you're doing and how you're playing, and they get really mean with you and make it not fun anymore.
I would say you're not doing anything wrong,
right? But if you give yourself a mathematical advantage of plus 2%, right?
Which anybody supposedly can do.
Anybody can do. But when they see you're doing it, they can say, you're not welcome here anymore, Joe Danyi. And the one thing that chased me away from casinos is the meanness and the how you were treated when you were an advantage player.
So what happened then? I've always heard that people that were doing really well got like comped suites and all these niceties to kind of keep you coming back. Or is that just if you're spending a lot?
If you're spending a lot and
you're
you're willing
doing
to gamble
well, but you're spending
they
a
know
lot.
You're losing a lot. And basically
Okay.
what they're doing is they have a camera behind or on every player, and they're looking for things they know what card counters do. And they're looking for you to do that, right? How you bet your chips, if you're making dumb decisions that your typical, like they actually have a published card that tells you what to do in certain circumstances. So like if you hit on a 16 in a certain circumstance, that's regular. But if you're like, you don't hit on a 16, that's irregular. And you put so many irregular things happen in conjunction with them panning out for you, right? Then you know that that person is probably playing off a different script, and they can dispatch you and say, you're not welcome here anymore. And that happened to me a lot.
It's got to at least make you feel good that you're
that
like,
I could go work a casino game.
I'm too smart for you losers.
Yeah. Well, and I like to gamble for fun, and there's a rush to being able to win. But when you're in adversarial territory where there's people trying to disrupt you and trying to interrupt the game and trying to throw in comments, it takes you off of the counting.
Like 50
They're doing that on
against 1.
purpose, right? Because they don't want to lose money to a guy that, like a vending machine, can go to a casino and make $1,000 and leave. They don't want that. I'm not your target
that's
market.
why like you don't go and play like carnival games, is everything is stacked against you.
Right.
They're going to do everything they can to not let you win. So your brain is like, I'm going to get one over on these people. And my brain's like, not even doing it.
Yeah. But it broke me to a certain point where even there are times where I throw a game, like I'm playing cards with a bunch of people, and I know that I'm just going to dominate, and I don't want to just dominate because nobody will ever play the game with me. So I will actually do dumb things on purpose to let somebody else win. just so that, I know I could win, but I don't want to because I want to still be agreeable and people will still come to the card table.
Like you could be like, this is kind of a lower round. I'm not going to be out a lot, so I won't win. But when it's a lot, I'm winning.
It's no fun. Unless there's money involved. But I have nightmares about gambling. Nightmares. So this was one. So I had this superpower where I could freeze time for 5 minutes. I hit a little pendant, time gets frozen for 5 minutes. And I was thinking all the scenarios, how I could best financially improve my situation with that 5 minutes, robbing banks and ripping off casinos and doing all kinds of illegal stuff and how I would use it. I'm thinking, what can I do good? How can I use this 5 minute good?
Well, that's good.
And I always end up in the casino, right? And here's my deal. Where I hit the 5 minute thing.
They call that a gambling problem.
I hit the button for 5 minutes and I go around to all of the tables and I skim $1,000 chips, right? But now I have this pocket full of $1,000 chips and I got to launder this into the real world, because if I just go to the gate and say, here's my $1,000 chips, give me my cash, convert it, they're like, oh, missing $1,000 chips. And this guy had a bunch of $1,000 chips. We don't have any camera footage of him doing it, but this is going to be a problem for this payout.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I got to play these chips and I got to win so that I can get different chips and then go to the cage and grab my winnings. But, and then I'm in that same spot where I have to play the game so that now I know I could win the game and I got to lose a little bit. And I got to change them into different chips, but still have more than when I sat down at the table. And it's this thing where I'm trying to lose on purpose and it's hard for me. And I got the math, but I have to throw hands away. And I don't know. This is a torturous
Even
dream.
your dreams are cooler than everyone else's.
You could make a movie about that, right?
Last night, I had a dream that I have fairly often, that I am stuck in this endless, enormous parking deck looking for my car. And there's multiple levels and I can't get out. And the only difference last night is RFK Jr. was there.
Oh.
That was it. We were looking for our cars.
Yeah, dream cooler. Like that's my...
I know! I don't have cool dreams like that.
Okay. So let's do a... Kelin's going to commit to developing a skill set that she'd like to have and doesn't right now. Let's talk about it.
Okay.
And
something really cool.
That's possible.
Like remote viewing or telepathy or...
anything that's possible.
I don't know. Remote viewing would be cool.
Okay. You're up for remote viewing? What would you do with it?
I was going to say, what can you do with this? Is this something like you just sort of know where something is? Or can it be like I'm actively watching events unfold?
Well, again, put it through Joe's lens here. Mm-hmm. There is information that is only not in your head right now because you are using the primary function of your senses. And that information is not available because your primary senses can't give you that information. So you have to develop things that aren't part of the analog primitive senses that you depend on. That's step one.
Oh, that's all?
Yeah.
Okay.
And all of the people who do this use their imaginative faculties to go to the information, using your brain to connect with the frequency and vibration of where that information is, using perceptions that you don't have right now.
I've heard the military does this.
They do. Very effectively.
And in the video, I remember seeing one video about it. It was like a beginning kind of, here's how you can practice. And it was somebody put something in a box and you didn't see it. Here's a box. You can't see through the box. The only information you are given is how big the box is. Tell me what's in this box. And it was like all this thing about quieting your mind and I guess using what you already know, at least the size of the object, and tell me what's in the box. And I can't do it. But do you think you could do it?
Oh, if I wanted to, I could. Absolutely.
Really?
Yeah.
If I put something in a box and you didn't see it go in there, you could tell me what I put in there.
I have not practiced or developed the skill, but I know that I could because I know what I would practice. Yeah, it would take a while. Like, this is not a naturally gifted thing that I have, but I know I can develop it.
What would you do? What skill would you want to develop?
I don't know. I think I'm working on all the ones I really want to.
Like what?
It's Fight Club. right? You know what the rule of Fight Club is? Number one, you do not talk about Fight Club.
Yeah, maybe I'm just being deceiving and I can do all these
I can't
things.
give in to my tendencies of making what I'm doing into a parlor trick where I want to talk about it. Like, it's like the magician really wants to. Okay, so if you're a really good stock picker, right? You have two things. If you're a really good stock picker, you just go pick stocks for yourself and you don't tell anybody about it. The people who are like, I'm a really good stock picker, and tell everybody about your stock picking, I have cynicism on that person, because if you're really good at it, you would just go do it instead of tell people about your doing it. And I know the addiction to either other people being fascinated with it. Like, did you give a charitable donation so that people would pay attention to you? Or did you give the donation because that's what you wanted to do? Well, I don't trust that I wouldn't do it just for the acknowledgement. So I don't do it whatsoever. And I just give the donation, tell nobody about it. I kind of just did though. And so I'm satisfying the question whether or not I'm doing this for the praise or I'm doing this for me. And I do all of this stuff on the DL just for myself.
My husband used to tell me, a lot of things. D Nice doesn't believe you. A lot of like military people, he's like, you can tell that they haven't done shit when all they want to do is talk about cool things they've done. And he's like, somebody who has actually done badass stuff won't talk about it.
Don't talk about it. That's exactly right. So that's one of the quelling your conscious brain from taking over and getting fascinated something, not with the skill set, but how you're going to be paid attention to is part of the deal. But the practice is usually boring to be able to get there. Right. Mm-hmm. If you're going to convince yourself that you're going to pay attention to subtle information, you're not going to go right to remote viewing. I'm going to say you're sitting in a room, right, after you've been there. And I'm going to say there's a person that's 3 booths away from you. What are they wearing on their head? Right. And you're going to say, I don't effing know. And I'm going to say, well, if you were paying attention to subtle information, when you walk into a room, there's information to be had, you would be memorizing it. And now you're looking around like a CIA operative, right? And painting the room in your brain with information that can be had and finding like being able to recall that, but doing it on such a subconscious level that you're not thinking about the red hat that the person was wearing, but your subconscious collects all information and then it delivers that information up to your conscious brain. But that's writing it where you're taking your conscious brain and putting it on autopilot and using your subconscious brain and feeding it with directives to collect information that's quiet and subtle.
I have heard, I don't know if this is true, I have heard that the human mind cannot make up a face. That when you dream, anybody in your dream, even though you think it's somebody you have never seen before, it's somebody you have seen before. You just didn't realize it.
Okay.
Our brains can't create a face in our mind that we have not actually seen. And so every time someone's like, oh, there was someone in my dream, but I didn't know them. It was a face somewhere in your day. Somebody walked past you, whatever. You saw this face and you just didn't register it. You believe that?
I'm a Matrix guy.
Ooh,
right. So when you had the not the engineers, but the operator on the Matrix, remember he had the screens in front of him. What was on the screens?
Yeah. I don't know. Was it what everybody was seeing?
But what was it? Like when you look at it, what was it? It was green text, right? And he said, what is this? This is the Matrix. And he was like, after a while, you don't see the code anymore, right? So let's just say a human being was nothing but information and code. And when it's translated, it translates to a red dress and a face and shoes and a car and whatever. But in reality, it's just streams of information. And the more distracting the images are, the more valuable the information streams are. If you stop paying attention to shoes and you're looking at the code, letting your imagination, your conscious draw up what a red dress is, right? Then you don't buy into the illusion of the painted reality. You're looking at the code of the reality.
This makes things, we've talked before about like migraines. This makes it even more interesting. And we're going to get to D Nice in a minute because he's
yapping.
Hold on, D Nice. I've mentioned before that on occasion, luckily, knock on wood, it's only on occasion. I get migraines and I get what they call like aura with it where my vision goes funny. But I will at times, before I even realize I'm getting a migraine, I won't have any pain yet. I won't have any nausea yet, but I will lose half my vision. And I've tried to describe this to people. My kids are like, what do you mean it's gone? It's not a black hole. It's not nothingness. It's just not there. And it's the weirdest thing. Like I could look at your face and maybe like the whole right side of your face, your eye, your ear, everything is just not there. And I can't describe what I mean by that. It's not a black hole. It's not, I see color. Except you don't have that part of your face. And it's almost like they have said that migraine, it's not just like tense muscles and things, but it's something in your brain is being wonky, which I guess this would sort of be proof to that, wouldn't you think? It's not like my eyeball suddenly blacked out or something.
Information stream, yeah.
Yeah, the information.
So what is
not
your
coming.
eye even collecting to be able to paint the picture of the reality that's sitting in front of you? Do you know how the eyeball works? Do you know how the ears work?
It's collecting light.
Okay. So are you real? If basically there's photons that are bouncing off objects, those photons are entering the eye, bouncing off the back of the eye, painting a picture of what frequencies were related, and then painting what Kelin looks like. Are you real, or is just the information stream translated into something that you perceive? You're just a collection of frequency photons. That's really it.
Yeah. And apparently during a migraine,
information streams
you
get
are totally
disrupted.
reconfigured.
Yeah.
That's creepy.
Mm-hmm.
But it's got to be really there.
What's really there?
Your body is really there. How is it? Let's say I'm suffering a migraine. God forbid. God forbid. And I don't see part of you. To me, it's gone. But let's say you're actively on an operating table. A surgeon is working on you. They are very much touching and handling and seeing
the
body.
illusion of you. You have this collaboration between primitive senses. So it's real to you if you can touch it, primitive sense. So basically, you're going to have to take all the senses away from you, and you have to evaluate the world without any of those primitive senses. The real thing outside of those senses could be different than what the collaboration of your senses paint for you in the real world. Yeah. If you leverage any of those senses, you're only depicting it. It's not real because you use the primitive sense to depict it.
I like in The Matrix when he goes to see the Oracle and she's like, don't worry about the vase. What vase? And then he crashes a vase and she's like, how'd you know that? And she's like, real question is would you have still broken it had I not said anything? Anywho, D Nice doesn't believe you. He says, instead of doing it, I just say I can and require you to trust me on that. I think he was talking about things you said you can do.
Oh yeah. It's never been my, purpose to convince anybody, right, that their mediocrity needs to be elevated. I only work with people who get some kind of lightning strike. They get a sense for there's more to be done. Like those are the people that are easy to work with. Cynics and critics, I don't give a shit. I don't care. This ability is mine. These developed abilities are people who are open to it. Everybody who isn't, I don't give a shit. I don't.
I'm open to it.
Yeah.
I want to see some cool stuff.
All right. Well, I gave you your first thing. Pay attention to subtle details and filter them into your subconscious and then recall them. That's all you got to do is pick information up, put it down in your subconscious and recall it. We do this exercise in my house, right? Mm-hmm. Somebody will ask for something like, hey, do you know where my keys are? And I know that I've walked through every room and my subconscious has seen everything because I'm constantly scouting and scouring for where things are. So when somebody says, where's my keys? I go silent. I go in my head. I walk back through everything that I've seen. And I said, check on the blah, blah, blah. And they're like blown away that I was able to recall something. And I didn't know where the keys were until that question was asked. But since I was able to walk through my subconscious, I can almost always recall them.
Isn't that kind of like retracing your steps?
Yep,
like
mentally.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people have done that where it's like, oh, I don't remember where I put this thing. And you remember, I came home, I walked in, I set my bag down, I went in here to change, and I set it there. Okay.
Yeah. But the practice version is you can use your imagination to really walk back through your imagination and be outside of your body and where you're sitting right now and live through an imaginative version of it where you're walking back through again using only your subconscious. It's an actual ability.
There have been times where I will randomly notice something small, insignificant at the time. I'll just happen. Like we could be sitting here talking and I just happen to see, what is that, a Dunkin' or what cup is that?
That's a Sheets.
Okay, Sheets. So let's say we're just talking and I just happen to see Sheets cup of coffee and blah, blah, blah. And I just happen to look at it an extra second and continue about my day and conversation. And then later in the day, someone could be like, oh yeah, I'm going to get coffee. Where does Joe get his coffee from? And I'd be like, Sheets. Mm-hmm. Because it just stood out to me.
Yep.
And I think, to me, every time this happens, it's like, wow, something really got my attention and I used it later. Would you say it's more so everything is in here?
It is.
That was just the one instance I could recall something.
Accidentally. All right. So everybody has the ability to populate their subconscious once it's given a directive. There are certain things that happen accidentally where it's given a directive because of fear or uncertainty or whatever. Your brain will kick in and through a protective defense mechanism, make you remember something. So you realize when there's a reason for it, like I'm in a parking lot in an amusement park and I got to remember where my car is because I'm afraid that I'm going to be walking around the parking lot. Right. And then so your subconscious can recall that because you had a fear that populated where your car was. Look up at a sign, look at some kind of landmark, look at the cars that are around you and so on and so forth. But then the practice is don't let an emotion populate that skill set. Just try to make it so that it has to remember it can't figure out what you want to remember. So it remembers and recalls everything. And the practice is then I'm in a restaurant and who's sitting at the first booth? There's no utility in that. You weren't afraid of that person, but since you're so used to collecting all information, right? Then your subconscious is really good at delivering that stuff when you tell it to.
Do you think there can be a point that it's too much and it stops, or is it endless?
It's endless
collection.
Endless collection.
Endless collection of information.
I've never hit the top side of being full. Your conscious brain can get full, and that's why I don't depend on it. But your subconscious, super capable, but it doesn't do sophisticated thought, and we're addicted to our sophisticated thought. Subconscious is very primitive thought. So you have to translate things into very simple terms, caveman speak. And it can remember those things all day long. But so long that we want everything to be in the sophisticated, complicated world, it's hard to remember those. And it gets, out of capacity very quickly unless we use our subconscious. But I gave you all the keys to remote viewing. Wandering through your imagination to make recollections about information that you've been, exposed to, because the more advanced version of that is gather information through your imagination of things that you have not been exposed to. With that, so your primitive senses gave you the answer key. All the cards were on the table in a 5-deck shoe. Every card that you would need to know the information was freaking presented to you, right? Mm-hmm. All you got to do is follow. That's the simple version. That's already there. You just have to pay attention to it. And again, like the card counting is a subconscious routine, not a conscious routine.
So how can you be given all the information needed about something that is on the other side of the world?
Right. Then you have to practice giving up on those senses. Use your imagination. Do you believe in time and space, or is it an illusion?
I mean, I did until I met you and you said it's an illusion. And now I'm like,
it is an illusion. So if science says that those two things only exist when you are playing a linear timetable, like you are walking out on the line where you believe in time and you believe in space. So if I said, tell me what's going on in Disneyland right now, and you're like, I can't get there fast enough to be able to tell you because you're depending on your limited primitive senses. But if I'm like, I want you to travel there without going there, don't even believe in time, all the information that exists in the world is at your disposal right now using different sensory organs than your 7, 9, 12 senses that you depend on.
Have you ever heard about this idea that some scientists feel that even our memories, some of our memories are not real, that we are remembering something based on other feelings, information, experiences we've had, will cause us to form a memory in our brain of something that we believe we were there and we experienced and we witnessed and this happened and it never happened.
You're going to get me in paradoxes because this is related to this conversation, the paradoxes.
Yeah.
And it all depends. Like I said, I don't believe in the realities, the same illusions that you do. I'm outside of those things. And I'm willing to say that time and space don't exist and money doesn't exist and governments don't exist. So the realities that you might put in your brain as memories, you think they're real, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't take a whole lot. I mean, you can go through the, what are those things called where like the Monopoly guy had a monocle or the Fruit of the Loom thing was a cornucopia.
Oh, oh my God, we just talked about this.
What's this dude's name?
The Mandela effect.
Yes. Yeah. The Mandela effect. All of those, are those false memories or are those just collective that, what's the likelihood that everyone everywhere remembers something that didn't happen that did happen or vice versa? What's the likelihood?
I don't know.
It's a phenomenon that you should pay extra attention to, because if every mall, right, had in every community before the internet and before, communication, large distances, there was a mall in California that had people hiding under your car, slashing your ankles. And in Ohio, they had hiding under your car, slashing your ankles. This might have never occurred, but in two places separated by vast distances, we have the same phenomenon. What's the theme in both of those? Human beings conjured up a reality, probably based on a fear that makes sense, that when they walk out of the mall, somebody thought, I hope someone's not underneath my car with a razor blade. And then everybody was like referring to it as something that happened, but might have not have ever happened.
I didn't know if that ever happened or if that was just a scary story, like watch out, watch your surroundings.
But that's just an example of things that in our culture gets handed down, and then you can compare distances of things that are happening. You're like, wait a minute, there was no influence between these two spaces, and how did they occur at the same, over distances and different times, right? But it's the same phenomenon.
Yeah, and one of the reasons I wonder too when I say, do you think that there is a limit to the capacity, is why is it sometimes I can recall the most unimportant, minute, small detail to a day in my life in the past, but can't remember a significant event. Like a full day, something out of the norm happened. People were there that aren't normally there. A significant event, I'm like, I barely remember that even happening. But walking in my bedroom one random school day as a kid and putting my stuff away in my bedroom. Like, zero significance, zero eventful. That lives and the other doesn't. What causes that?
I would say that's a neural expansion, contraction type of thing. You have electrical signals, chemical electrical signals that branch between neurons. And when you develop and use these, they get really strong, close together, and easy to transmit. And the ones that you don't use kind of separate, and the energy is used in other departments. So when you develop it, you're basically taking branches of your neurons, and you're allowing them to sort of like go away because they're underutilized. I
wondered too if it could have even been physical factors at the time. Like, for example, there was a Christmas years ago that my family always talks about, because they find it so funny at how much it related to Ralphie's family in A Christmas Story, where I was living in Georgia. We had family visiting us for Christmas, and the turkey was still frozen and we couldn't eat it. And we went out to eat for Christmas to a Chinese restaurant. And everyone's like, we're going out to eat. And it was exactly like in the movie. And everyone's like, how funny this was. I don't remember this. And the only thing I can think of is I think I was either pregnant or had a baby at the time. And I'm like, lack of sleep, lack of cognitive recall, then brain probably wasn't in the same state it is had I not have been either sleep deprived or whatever. So I wonder if there was some sort of physical difference in my sleep, my brain, whatever, that it's more sharp in one situation and less sharp in another.
Well, and women get surges of chemical baths on their brain as well. So I think women have an easier time developing those because of what they have better access to than males do. But again, that's like counting cards, like paying attention to the variables of what was happening when you get cognitive abilities under certain circumstances and trying to isolate the variables and finding out if you can recreate them. So let's just say you got good sleep and you ate chicken and you had your vitamins and you did some exercise, and then, hypothetical A happens, right? And then you're like, I'm gonna do all the same things and see which ones were related to the cognitive ability.
Yeah.
And then if it doesn't happen, like I didn't get to good sleep and I couldn't get to that same place, now you're counting cards in what makes your brain function at a high level in a certain area versus when it doesn't. You can draw some parallels there.
Yeah. Like I've always said, I can spit out every lyric to an Eminem song, but can't remember a math equation.
Right. Now, what if that was by accident, where there are, again, we said, Nikola Tesla said, if you want to understand and harness your world here, you look in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. What do you think sounds are? Sounds are frequencies, right?
Yeah.
What if there is a certain frequency that is tied with higher cognitive ability? And then you listen to a song, and what you drop in, you're like, okay, I put this frequency where my brain opens up, it gets bathed with chemicals that are ready to receive. And then what was the song here? And you drop in the lyrics to a freaking song, and your brain's like, yep, she might want to remember that. You're like, the hips and the whatever comes out.
Do the hill and kill,
I would be like,
and talk
if
with
you
your
had
hip.
the ability that you could open up a channel of your brain and deliver anything to it, why would you pick a lyric to a song, right?
Because to me, that's enjoyable.
Okay.
There is supposedly music out there, or frequencies, or music made out of frequencies that are meant to open your pineal gland. Pineal gland. Yeah. Do you think that's true?
Oh, yeah.
That listening to this music somehow affects your brain in your head.
In meditative state, pineal gland, it opens up all of your brain, not just that. I mean, a lot of people who are seeking the supernatural and that cognitive ability where they can connect with hokey stuff, they go after the pineal gland, right? But it's all over the brain.
Is it hokey as in not real, or is it real?
Those people aren't developing it for the right reasons. They're doing it hokey, parlor
or something fun.
Yeah, something fun, something, you dabbled in the supernatural to get some of the effect, and it makes you special because you connected on something accidentally, rather than just knowing that the reality is what needs to be suppressed, and the connection with information outside of what your senses can gather. That's the real skill set.
This person says it is 100% valid. I don't know if he means maybe the music or the frequency, or is that what's valid?
Yeah, but once you know that, like, what do you do with it? If I had the skill set that I could stop time, like, what would I choose to use that superpower for? So if you had a superpower that I can use a frequency, a tone, a fluctuation of frequencies, and open up your brain, what would you dump in there and, decide to remember? Right?
Yeah. You know what I would use it? Like you said, you can gather really large amounts of information. You could see what is based off of little bits of information. I would use things like that if I was trying to make a decision, like a large decision. What should I do? What's the right answer? What is going to be more beneficial for me? And somehow quiet nonsense, open up whatever needs to be opened, and receive all bits of information for that decision. And this makes the most sense. This would be the most successful
You're
choice.
dabbling then.
Yeah.
Just magnify that times 1,000.
Now, some people would call that prayer. Pray, and a spiritual, supernatural being will simply tell you what it is. Do you believe in that? Is that different?
And that, when we had our earlier versions of ourselves, we looked up at the sky and tried to understand what the real world was all about. And we found little shortcuts to be able to tap into information, whatever. That was like the onset of getting developed in those areas. The problem is it kind of got lazy, and we didn't understand what we were really dabbling in. And we made it into a parlor trick rather than saying, all right, when I calm my mind and I don't think about thoughts and I open myself to a quieter voice, whatever, I hear information and I get a sense for information.
Yeah.
But then you go super quick and make something else responsible for something that you are doing and you can replicate over and over again. That's the difference.
Well, and I think too that it can sort of go hand in hand. Whether you believe that there is a spiritual being that is sort of whispering in your ear, this is what you should do, and here's information, or you have a pineal gland in the top of your brain that is able to come alive and open up and receive energy, and your brain now starts recognizing things and creating synapses and taking in information, and all of a sudden you make a good decision. They can be the same thing. Because if you believe in a creator, the creator did that.
Yes. It is not right. It is not contrary. It does not run.
Yeah. Maybe this person didn't come over, an invisible person whispered in your ear. What it is I gave you a brain, a pineal gland, energy waves, thought process, a mind, so that you can hear what you need. Really, it's the brain is doing what it was designed to do.
Yeah. Normie brains need concrete stories, right, to be able to translate information streams just like the Matrix. So when I put those lines of code in there, you translate it down to something that your conscious brain can make sense of and knows how to do it. If I was like, hey, you know what? You got unlimited information, infinite information that you can gather. You get to be selective about what you pull down. You can have low-level stuff where you're trying to figure out what Snooki did on the TV, right? You gather that information and concoct it, or tap into stuff that you might not understand, but you can try to concoct an understanding. So what we're likely to do is we're likely to, take in other people's translations of what they saw and what is, just so we don't have to do the heavy lifting and, reinvent the wheel when it comes to understanding what God is or what the universe is or what the illusion of perception and reality is. I want to go to the low level normie stuff where I just want to make sense of things that are more concrete. And high level thinkers go in one direction where things are less understandable and less certain versus things that we can all make agreement on, that freaking Monopoly guy had a freaking monocle and I will die on that hill.
Did he not have a monocle?
He didn't have a monocle.
Kind of like the Fruit of the Loom logo.
Yeah.
Dennis earlier says Shazam is a real movie. Is Shazam not a real movie? Shazam with Shaquille O'Neal. That's a real movie. What are you talking about, Dennis? He ain't missed yet, folks. He's in the paint. You?
I don't know. I don't know. But anyway, man, we went long on that. How the hell did
I like going to crazy
Nikola
town.
Tesla did to me today?
I like going to crazy town. Why is he not even facing us? He should face us.
Maybe someone doesn't like him.
Yeah.
I like Nikola Tesla.
Okay.
But the long and short of Nikola Tesla, I have read biographies in every storyline from every, major personality that I took interest in. Political leaders, industrial leaders, science leaders, whatever. And if you want to look into their past and be critical of how they lived their lives or what they did, you totally can. There's not a superhuman person that lived during any of those eras. So if Edison or Carnegie or Tesla had any, idiosyncrasies or bad behaviors, or they did some wrong things, you could either say they were a terrible person, or you could say, man, they did some amazing stuff in spite of being just a person.
Yeah, in fact, it was interesting because I saw when you posted about that, the Nikola Tesla post, and you would share that, he died penniless and in love with a pigeon and all this stuff. Knowing that you sort of look up to him and can appreciate and respect him, but also knowing you're an entrepreneur with that entrepreneurial mindset. And I think you're focused on success, making money, utilizing your brain and your skills and creating things. Would you then say you would not at all want to end up like Nikola Tesla did? Or do you think there could still be virtue in being that entrepreneur who eventually dies?
Well, and that's why we started us off with hero worship. It's taking a person, knowing that they're going to be incomplete, taking an element of influence from them, using that element and not accepting the whole Jesus thing. I don't want to be just like Nikola Tesla. There's some things that don't interest me. And there's some cautionary tales about things that Thomas Edison did wrong or Henry Ford did wrong. And I can either say, well, Henry Ford, he was overt racist, hated Jewish people, right? And
Is that true?
Yeah.
Oh, didn't know that.
And or he took the manufacturing process and dominated in it and created an entire industry around his vision. Okay, so I have choice. I could pick either he was a rabid racist or that he was really smart in this one area. I could either say he was a failed person, so I'm going to learn anything from him.
Like you could say Elon Musk really onto something here, but I also don't want a bunch of kids with multiple women.
Yeah.
Wouldn't do that.
Well, whatever it is, you take that slice of what they do really well and you assemble all of the good, virtuous things from them. And you don't have to accept or take any of the failings from them. So do you think if I wanted to truly emulate Nikola Tesla and I develop my imagination where I can create things in my mind before creating them in real person, that's what I was focused on. You're like, but you're going to marry a pigeon. I'm like, not convinced that that's going to happen because I got Carnegie elements. I've got Edison elements. I got Ford elements. I got Musk elements. I got all of these people. But by the way, this is going to be a little concerning.
Oh,
I have meetings with these people in the morning, by the way, during my meditative state. I have portraits of them on my wall and I have meetings where I ask them specific things about, what I should do and what they would do. And so these board meetings of my favorite people throughout history, coach me every morning.
Is that at all like idolatry?
No.
Okay.
No, they consult with me. I'm tapping in to brains that aren't alive anymore, most of them, right? And they tell me things. I'm gathering information on how what they would do and how they would
believe they are communicating with you?
I do.
Or do you believe you are opening up your senses and your thought process and you're clearing your mind and you're getting information that you know about them in a what would they do moment?
No, I am tapping into their information when time and space is not an illusion that I'm bought into. I can tap into a Thomas Edison like he were in the room because he's really not dead. His information is still part of the universe, the life that he lived, the history that he made, the things that he created. I can tap into that information stream and grab some of it, stuff that I didn't even know about.
So kind of like the mind is not something you can touch. So why couldn't it still exist if the body is gone?
Right. Yeah, it's still information. He still had an impact. He affected the world that around him. That information is just hanging out there. It's not visible anymore. You have to tap into it. It's a lot more quiet, and you have to prepare and practice yourself into it. But it's there. But it's no different than a coach that's in front of you that you're just translating from, the audible frequencies that are coming out of their vocal cords. It's no different.
It does sound a little weird.
I agree with that.
Yet strangely makes sense. Only because, like I said, everyone that wants to be like, oh my God, that's just weird. If you look at the truths that you know energy exists. Mm-hmm. Everything is made up of energy. It's always around us. We have a mind, not a brain, a mind.
Yes.
Not a physical thing you can touch, something that we don't see as though it's tangible, but it exists. There are so many things that we know exist. Why would we not? Why would we not? Why do we think that just because the physical body shuts down, anything that was not tangible goes away?
Right.
Maybe it doesn't.
It doesn't. Like that's a principle of physics.
I know somebody, I think I've told you this before. I know somebody that has had some really interesting, inexplicable circumstances. And it's one of those people like, they could say, oh, I've seen ghosts or I've seen whatever. And you could think they're a loon or not. But she told me about this instance one time. She was at a friend's house. And suddenly, in her mind's eye, she could see this young man, boy, whatever it was, this kid. And she's like, yeah, I'm really sort of picking up or visioning this guy. And he looks like this. And she's describing it. And someone's like, this guy? And she's like, yeah. And she's like, oh, that's my nephew. He was just here. He's not dead. He's not a ghost. And she's like, but he was just here. Yes. And she's like, I think that's energy. I think the energy of the person that they were creating and everything that makes them up in this world was in a spot that I am now standing. Why would we assume that goes away?
Yeah, it only does one thing. It's when you're alive, it's concentrated and it has form, right? Just like the photons that are coming, the energy, the electromagnetic energy are coming from the sun, comes to our atmosphere, it gets diffused. In order to make use of it again, we got to recollect it, organize it, and structure it in a way that we can interpret it, right? We're doing the same thing with the energy. It's uncollected. It's now out there, and you have to organize it and bring it in, just like we count cards on a poker table. It's there. You just got to make some kind of semblance of it so it's usable.
Do you believe in when people talk about near-death experiences and how they were able to see things and nobody knows how did you know that? How did you see that? You were laying on this operating table dead. And it was like, my body and my mind are not the same thing. I was still very much present and looking at everything. And then
it's a glimpse. Like if you think the deepest meditative state that you've ever gotten, you went into a room, you cleared your brain, you had absolute quietness, you put your consciousness on hold, and you were just an interpreter of raw information that was made
very hard to do.
But if you ever did, now you die, and every distraction, you have no senses, and you are in the deepest meditative state you've ever been in. I'm sure that you have a collection of information, whether or not what you saw, like when you came back and your brain tried to categorize it and make sense of it, that you were right or not. That's not the question. It's just a matter of you went to a place where there was infinite information. You got a glimpse of it and you came back and tried to make sense of it. That's really all we're doing here.
This person says the extent of the professionalism here. Norm Macdonald is grinning in pride. I should know. I tapped into his brain.
Love it. Norm is awesome. Norm's one of my faves.
He died, right?
Yeah.
R.I.P. Norm Macdonald. Do you think you could do that then with anybody?
Information streams, yeah.
With anybody?
Anybody.
Alive, dead, past, present.
Yeah.
You can tap into an information stream from...
It is sort of like remote viewing. You're going to a person that you don't know nothing about, in a place that you don't know, and all you're doing is eroding time and space, and you have access to that information.
So someone who lived hundreds of years ago.
Yeah.
You can tap into information they were receiving.
Oh, for sure.
Jesus.
I'm sure. That's an easy one, though, because we know a lot about, information from him.
There's a lot documented and a lot of the historical information. Mm-hmm. So would you not then say to yourself, or would a skeptic then say, you already know this information, you are filling in the rest? It's not their mind. It's not their information.
Well, and that's why you have to have a good discerning ability, whether or not it's you. And that's why I say the practice of giving a charitable donation. Are you feeding your own ego to be able to access information? You want the outcome. You're not just open to interpreting the information without filling in other details. But that's a practice in its own, to not let you get in the way. You're just a receiver. Let the information flow.
Kind of like I've always said, I don't think I can be hypnotized because I can't get out of my head.
Right.
Anytime I've been in a situation where there's like a party trick hypnotist trying to work with people, all I can do is think, is it happening? Is it happening now? Am I hypnotized now?
Yeah.
Quiet the brain. Is my brain quiet now? And then I'm like, stop talking. It's very difficult to do.
Yeah. And that's a lot of people who deal in psychedelics. They're able to quell ego and create a different channel for what's them and what's just an interpretation of data. But anybody who's not gone through a psychedelic experience doesn't know the differentiation between those two. What separates you from yourself, your ego, the center of what it is your humanity is, and the more primitive version that's just a collector, a receiver, an antenna for raw information,
and you
without
don't
having
think
a hand in it.
The only information you're receiving is a piece of your brain malfunctioning or dying or frying or being altered in some way, and that's why you've got different information?
Like noise? I'm sure there's noise in there.
If you take a psychedelic and it physically alters something in your brain, you're now going to perceive something maybe in another way.
Short circuiting.
It's causing it. It's not I'm suddenly now picking something up. It's this made me think this or see this because this part of my brain just went like twinge.
But it's a forced perspective shift. So that if you get in, like if you had a bright light in front of you and you couldn't see anything on the other side of it, if you move the bright light and you get information that you didn't have before because the bright light was pulled away, you could call that a short circuit. Something that was supposed to be there is not there anymore. And then like, oh, I see something I didn't see before. Could be.
Jerry says, it is crazy that you can be in a room of people and then a certain person walks in and all of a sudden you feel that there is a stronger force in the room, even though you didn't see them or know they were there or who they were.
Yeah.
I had a weird, I can remember a weird situation when I was a teenager because it was so strong. It stuck with me. I was on the computer in our living room and I'm like chatting on like Instant Messenger and AOL and all that fun stuff. And I get the strongest sense that someone's behind me. And I immediately went, it's one of my brothers. My brother's coming to sneak up on me. They're trying to scare me because I could feel it. And I didn't look away because I didn't want to ruin it. And I just finally go, I know you're there out loud. Like, you're not scaring me. And I turned around. Nobody was in the room. Nobody was even on the same floor as me. There wasn't anyone there. There was not someone there. Mm-hmm. And I was so freaked out because everything in me felt that when you feel someone walk up behind you, you know it. And I literally out loud talked to my brother who I thought was going to be right behind me doing this. You're not going to scare me. And I turned around and nobody. What happened there?
All right. So, and you could probably explain that with natural phenomenon. Like, you ever walk into like a house that was built in the 1900s and they don't have the proper shielding that we have in electricity today. You walk in the basement, you stand right under a junction box where there's bare wires and there's a 110 line over your head, right? And you feel that radiating energy, because if you could see, you see visible, but what about the things that are not visible? If you saw the waves that were emanating from Wi-Fi and unshielded electricity, I mean, we're bathed in all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And then you have natural phenomena like the sun belches out a bunch of extra energy that changes, what's overhead, and you know what I mean, how much radiation you're being exposed to. And then you have did you see that I think the 6th, the polarization, the north and south, I think it's 200 to 300,000 years, the poles shift and north becomes south and south becomes north.
I've heard of this.
Right. And so the shielding that goes around the earth swaps. And my kid insists that this is a very quick maneuver. Within a week or two, you can have a complete polar shift and then, you go into another cycle. I think it's gradually over time, these things shift. And being that one hasn't happened in our lifetime, we're going to either be proven right or proven wrong. But when the people who measure this see that there's some activity where we're having the beginnings of a shift, what life is going to be like and how we're going to be affected if what we're used to being bathed in has an opposite, like, you pull out your compass and north no longer points north, it points south kind of thing. And so, yeah, we're probably in the midst of a polar shift where what we're bathed in normally completely changes to an irregular upside down type of environment. And what that's going to be
so
like.
intense.
Yeah.
How long ago was the last time this happened?
I think 750,000 years ago is what they say the last polar shift happened. So we're a couple 100,000 years overdue for it.
Did anyone document it when it happened?
750,000. Yeah, they posted.
My brain went to 750.
They went to Discord and they dropped all of the data.
750 is not that long, and then my brain caught up and went 1,000.
Yes, so it will be. I believe that it will be a completely new environment, and we'll have, our brains will operate different. Transmissions will happen different. It'll be a juxtaposed flippage of what we're used to perceptually. Like, I don't think we're going to think any differently, but I think our environments will be completely different.
That would be interesting to see what changes. I mean, some people think the whole like headache migraine thing is pressures and changes and things in the atmosphere and around us. And So if you have a total polar shift, what the heck is that going to do?
Right. I'd like to see like the Faraday cage for all energies, like kept on the outside and be able to ground. Like Nikola Tesla lived in a Faraday cage, his whole life because he was working with high energy, high electricity. So he understood it pretty well. But what if you could go to a room that had zero electromagnetic activity, zero energy activity? You weren't, you put an incandescent bulb or LED bulb and you're emitting those energies. What if you could just go to a standard zero room where there was no energies? I mean, you would die because thermal is energy and whatever. So you'd go to absolute zero and you'd be dead in a couple seconds. But I wonder what it would be like, what your feelings would be different when there's nothing emanating around you.
Well, have you heard about them studying people in Faraday cages and their emotions? You ever heard of that?
Mm-mm.
There's a guy I saw. I don't know if this is a different kind, because like you said, it's not like they were void of all energy, but they have put people in Faraday cages and measured their emotions. Like you can measure it. If they went in angry, happy, sad, joyful, whatever, they can get actual data that measures what is coming off of them in that mental state and how it changes when the mental state changes. And
so if I want you to feel uneasy and I walk you into a 1900s room and I could put you under that thing, I've created an environment where I can elicit a response from your brain by changing the atmosphere or the what the energy would be in that room. If it's controllable, how many factors on the outside that you're just not taking into consideration? When you're having a bad day, maybe it's not something you're doing internally. You're just in an environment where that energy is different than what you're normally experiencing. And then if you can change your perceptions and you can change the environments, why would you not put yourself in the best environments with the best bathed chemicals versus make everything line up so it's the worst day and the worst energies and whatever?
They've studied plants. People saying really negative, mean things, yelling and spewing hate at a plant, and it will start to wilt. And then when someone starts being uplifting and inspiring and happy and raise their tone and emit a whole different energy, the plant will thrive.
Yep.
Like they've measured this. It's a real thing.
But it's not the words that you are using. It doesn't understand the mean words at all.
And it understands positive and negative energy.
Does not.
Whatever that is.
So
whatever the change is called.
When you are in a negative, you take I'm going to make something up, a 64 decibel, 750 hertz tone, and it's the tone frequency that affects the plant.
Whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Usually that frequency comes out when someone's being what we would label as negative, or a different frequency that comes out when someone is exercising what we would label as positive.
We've categorized it. It's not a real thing. It's only what we can emanate, what we can create when we're in a psychological state. Go ahead and take that same frequency without any emotional controls and expose that plant to the same decibel and frequency and see if you get the same reaction.
Probably, but isn't it interesting that the human body can make it?
It can. We are both broadcasting and receiving ability. Frequencies.
Yeah. We're like little walking like satellite dishes.
Yeah.
Just picking up all kinds of stuff.
And sending out.
Here's something so interesting I just recently heard about. My husband's aunt is hard of hearing, basically deaf. She's had like cochlear implants and she's used different hearing aids and things to get some hearing back. But it's still mostly if she's not looking at you and you say something, she's probably not going to hear you. But she was telling us just recently, this past Christmas, we went and visited them. She said when she took her hearing aids out, she can hear music. And she says one day it was Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. One day it was something with sleigh bells in it. And her doctors have said not uncommon, but don't really know. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, wait a minute, are you like picking up radio stations and like the fillings in your teeth or something? Like they have no idea why. They said it is something in your brain is filling in noise background itself, and she's hearing actual music in her ears, in her head that is not there. Isn't that fascinating?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Why is it crazy?
I don't know. Like my husband, he wears hearing aids now because he's got a bunch of hearing loss. And he suffers with the ringing in the ears. Tinnitus. And his doctor has explained, when you sort of wear these, it helps. It doesn't take that away, but your brain learns to sort of ignore it or tune it out, and it feels like it's going away kind of thing. So I guess similarly, his aunt's brain is doing something that is filling in the sounds of music. And she's like, I can't make it stop. But she's like, oh, yeah, now I'm hearing whatever. And it's whatever song.
The word is resonance.
Resonance.
Yes.
That's weird. I just saw a YouTube video about resonance. What a coincidence. It was in, they were talking about singing using resonance, but they were talking about sound bouncing off of things. So that's what's happening, is a sound is bouncing off of something?
No, not really. Resonance, big spectrum here. And the most understandable part of resonance, and another Nikola Tesla discovery and pursuit. So opera singer has a glass, sings at a certain frequency, and you have destructive resonance where you can make the glass fall apart by matching the destructive resonance of the glass.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Nikola Tesla, he used to play this game, right? He has a resonance machine in his pocket, about the size, that he can carry around. And it was a tuning fork that created a frequency. He can hit that resonance machine, walk by a building, and make the building sway by matching the frequencies in a destructive way, almost
dangerous way.
Yeah. So if there's a destructive resonance, then there's a constructive resonance. So it's a parlor trick to destroy things by creating a resonance that makes things decompose, right? But you also have resonance that makes things be composed.
And if someone can use that resonance with their voice, let's say the singer that can break glass or whatever, that comes out, that gets emitted from them. Where does that go? And can someone else pick up on that? It just becomes part of the
information stream of the universe.
Someone else picks up on it, potentially. Yeah. Just like any other sort of energy emitted.
That's right.
Someone else
come into a room and I can get a sense for what you're resonating. I can receive information that you're not saying. You're not trying to communicate to me. I could pick up that resonance from you by getting frequencies close enough together to be able to perceive what you're giving off.
Now, going back to the whole mentalist and picking up information and just paying attention, would you say I am picking up someone's resonance and I can tell they're in a mood, or I can tell sort of how they're feeling because of what they're emitting? Or are you noticing slight things? Not very as smiley, not as
no.
Maybe the posture is a little different.
Is slight, and you can't usually extrapolate it to put a total conclusion together, right? And so maybe someone with highly developed skill can get resonance and make perfect sense of it in 32 seconds. But my experience, it's not like that. Yeah. It's subtleties. And when you're connecting, like we'll say with remote viewing, you're using probabilities and things you understand about the world and assembling them in a way where you're using resonance information to fill in gaps where your senses can't fill in. And the more developed it is, the less physical knowledge you need to know about something and more of the resonated information, right, from the universe that you can put a collective idea together.
Let's play a game.
Okay.
Do you think if I thought of something, you can guess what it was?
Oh, I'm not developed there. No.
Not like a color or a number, something that's not even infinite.
I wouldn't even know what to do. Like, how would you instruct me to read your brain?
I don't know. My family and I played this one time, and it was scary accurate for a couple of minutes. For a couple of minutes, we were dying at how well we did. And then we lost it. And we couldn't do it again. But it was like all four of us were just sitting at dinner one time. And I said, everybody think of a color. Everybody. Focus on that color. And when I say 3, we're all going to say what color we're thinking of. And I was like, is everyone ready? Yes. 1, 2, 3. And we would all be like, orange. And we'd be like, oh my God. And again, coincidentally, happened a couple times. And then it just stopped happening because I'm sure it was a coincidence. But do you think you could do that?
If I practiced it, I probably could get pretty good at it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, because we just started to then think of things like we think we're like, oh, I'm quieting my mind and I'm trying to pick up on whatever you might be emitting that is this color. But really it's just, okay, he's already used this color and this color. I know he likes this color. So there's a high probability he'll go with that. You know, It's quite the opposite of clear your mind and receive info. It's actually I'm analyzing now, trying to
that's
guess.
still a higher order of your brain to be able to take probabilities, mathematics to fill in the gaps that you're not getting from the information stream that you're not tuned into. It's still part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, the color thing, my brain is easier, absorbs things when I know its utility, what I'm going to do with it. So if you were like, hey, try to pick a color that everybody is, my brain already says that's not useful at this point. So it's a lot easier to be conditioned into something when I know what I'm going to do with the application of the skill. And so that wouldn't be one that my brain would even accept as something I need to work on. But if I could be like, I can tap into, you know, physics that may have been utilized at some point in history. Maybe an ancient civilization figured something out. They figured it out. It's in the universe. I'm going to figure it out too. And I'm going to tune it because then I'm like, ooh, the physics thing. I could do something with that. I want to do something with that. And then my emotions allowed me to pursue something because there's utility in it.
I'm going to say something and people aren't going to believe me. And I swear to God, this is true. On the way here this morning, I kept thinking, oh, I wonder what we're going to talk about today. Because for anyone who doesn't know, we don't plan our topics. Neither of us know what we're going to bring up, and we just sit down and start talking. I was like, I wonder what we're going to talk about. I don't really have anything on my mind. We've kind of overdone the politics. I hope we talk about something really cool and out there today.
Mm-hmm.
And look what happened.
Yep.
Was I picking up on something?
Yes.
Or was it probability? Totally. Because the probability told me
both are one
Monday we talked politics. MLO Bros talked politics. What else is next?
You don't have to be bought in that it's either supernatural or something that's environmental. It's a combination of all of those things. Because we are and I use the analogy of the shopping mall with razor blades, right? It's a compilation of things that you know, things that are predictable. The logic side of your brain is able to fill in some of that, and it ends up being a phenomenon that's experienced by all people. So our uniqueness and our predictability, I think we're far more predictable, whether or not you're talking about an ancient Mayan culture and where they were at. Like we think we're unique and we're nothing like the Mayans, but I bet you they were contemplating and trying to figure out the same things that we are right now, just in a different avenue. And the information that they had is way more valuable than a person that is much more like me, because we have access to the same information. We probably went down the same avenues. They might have paths that we never even thought to go down. So that's more valuable to me. So I would want to connect with Mayans way more than, you know, early 1900s scientists.
Huh. Emmanuel says, me and my fiance have times where we say the exact same thing or sentence at the same time mid-conversation. I'm not sure if our mind's picking up something or if it's because we are together so much to where we pick up the same dialogue. Yeah, that's always funny when like you and someone you're really close with will like say the same thing at the same time. Like the thought came in both your heads.
Yeah. Frequencies aligned, and you find two very unique individuals do similar things because they're aligned on that frequency level.
Well, yeah. Julie says it is predictable. Your conversations follow a pattern. Yep. Right. And like I've kind of jokingly said before, like, oh, we're on the same wavelength. Like, you know, if we wear similar outfits that day, or we're kind of both thinking about the same thing. I was like, oh, we're on the same wavelength. Is there truth to that? Or is there just, again, I know we do this, so most likely we'll do this. Yes. And maybe we'll, you know, it makes sense to progress in that way.
Yeah, it wouldn't be popular to say that you're predictable and the outcomes, I can create the circumstances that make you do something, right? But it is true. If I can prove it scientifically, I can put you in a situation. I'm going to say, here's the deal. Here's what I know about the world. I'm going to tell Kelin to go into Best Buy, and I go into the electronics. And I'm going to send a salesperson up to her and say, can I help you with anything? And Kelin is going to say, no, I'm just looking. And then letting a couple minutes pass by, then she's going to drop her guard and say, I do have a question. And that person is going to answer that. Now, how is that predictability through all human beings that are so unique that I can create that scenario and say, yeah, that's highly likely? How do I know that? Did I travel through time and see that scenario, or just know?
Well, you've lived that in the past.
But you can create conditions where you ultimately know what the information stream is going to be. Could you be wrong? Yeah, it's not an infallible, you know, deal.
Yeah.
But you're collecting information. I mean, you're walking over the sands on a beach and you're looking for something very specific. And either you're like, there's 1 in a million of these things that I'm looking for, and I'm pursuing finding that 1 in a million, or the person saying, well, there's more of noise than there is of something that you're looking for, so I'm not going to look. If you get conditioned, you find more of the things that you're looking for, even if it's scattered along amongst things that don't work and aren't what you're looking for, you still pursue it.
Yeah, like, again, real life example. Several weeks ago, someone came in looking for you, was a salesperson, was an insurance salesperson. So your favorite, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
And because I think it was like health insurance or something like that. And I had said, yeah, this person's not here, blah, blah, blah. Do you want to leave him information? Oh, well, can I just do this? And can I just meet with him? And can I blah, blah, blah? And I finally said, he's not going to meet with you. I'm telling you right now, don't waste your time. He's not going to. He's not interested. Am I psychic? No. I know based off of past information,
Yes.
Not going to happen.
Yeah. So we're aligning probabilities with things you can, conjure out of the real world and your senses can hear. Supernatural, where the information that you don't have direct access to, and you layer those and have an understanding about things by using both, not one, not the other. And I know people who are literalists who will only take concrete things and they believe in nothing supernatural. And I know people that love the supernatural and they'll only do supernatural. I'm going to have a good day today because of Jupiter is aligned with
Mercury
whatever.
retrograde.
Right.
Mercury.
And I like both, and both are usable things. And nowhere else in life we're like, it's either going to be 100% congruent with one material, and I will not build a house unless it's all concrete, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't work in the perceived, in the mind, or in the physical world.
So when hospital staff says that during a full moon, they get crazier people in cases, you think there is something valid to that?
Environmental, yeah.
That it is actually the moon and the gravity and the
variable
atmosphere and the...
But there could be a lot of other things. Okay. Vitamin deficiencies and not as much sunlight and more chaotic things dealt with in regular life and new people into environments and new behaviors set out. All of that's going to contribute to it, each in its little slice.
Like they say during time change, daylight savings time, heart attacks increase.
Mm-hmm.
Well, your schedule increases or changes, your sleep habits change. If you're unhealthy, that can be something that affects you, and not supernatural. Makes sense.
Right. And that's where the interpretation of the information is the skill set. The access to information is not the skill set. Everybody gets an accidental dose of things they shouldn't know. They try to make sense of it. And if they're not practiced interpreting that stuff, they usually get it wrong. And it becomes like a hokey pursuit rather than like a single 1% variable is a contributing factor to an overall perception of things that are hard to understand and, convince yourself are real.
But do you believe supernatural still exists?
Yes.
Sometimes it's just you did what you could do with your brain and information presented. And sometimes it is supernatural. And what is that?
What is supernatural?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
What is
I
supernatural?
consider everything of the natural world that can be perceived by your senses. That's the natural world. The supernatural are things that are above those senses and have to be perceived differently than what your analog organs that get translated in your brain.
So natural is like sight, sound, touch. I can perceive this in a real way.
Natural.
Mind. Mm-hmm. Supernatural or natural?
Has elements of both. That's the connecting organism between the natural and the supernatural, because you have a natural process happening, interpreting data that's from the natural world, and then positioned with something that you can get from the, when you study sciences, there's a lot of abstract things that are hard to wrap your brain around. Okay. And you have to do something with them because they're still real things, even if you don't see them. Like if we can see photons and whatever, but what about things that are not perceivable? Like, what are they doing and how do they enter in your life? They're part of the natural world, but we can't perceive them. Right?
Yeah.
You have to translate them.
That's why I've seen a lot of videos before of, they're usually sort of religious videos where they have an atheist and a Christian discussing certain things. And they always boil it down to things like consciousness, like, what is that? Like, yeah, the brain and synapses and energy and all this stuff, but like, consciousness, the mind, did they say love was one or something? Beauty, the idea of beauty, like, and why is that a perceived thing? You can't really touch or say what beauty is, but yet we all know what it is, kind of thing. Like it's really interesting to think about that, and they sort of go at it from a natural versus supernatural perspective.
Yeah, and it's important to push on the perceptions of things that are hard to contact. Let me throw one at you, and this is real world stuff, and I just know this because I'm close enough to the industry. But these things are hard to wrap your brain around, and they're completely natural processes. They're just hard to fathom.
Yeah.
Okay, so in the computer industry, we have microchips, things that are really small. When I say like you have 1 trillion resistors on this thing that's 1 by 1. Right? Yeah. It's hard to picture that something was built with 1 trillion resistors on here. How did you even do that? Right? That's imperceivably small. I can't even contemplate that. So I'm like, okay, well, how do they do it? I want to know. It's really small. Do you have some guy with a really small soldering iron that put each other? No, we didn't do that. So what do? We use things that are even harder to perceive. We use lithography. Right. And that's using, you know how like you do t-shirts and you put some kind of material on a silk screen, you expose it to light, and then you have parts of it that can be washed away and parts of it being solid. That's how lithography works in printing t-shirts. But that is one level, right? And it's completely understandable. We're using photons to be able to superimpose an image on a t-shirt, and then we can get a wearable t-shirt. Well, on computer chips, we're using the same principle. We're exposing a material to light, which then imprints the circuitry on a silicon layer, right? So how do you do this? How do you make something small where 1 trillion things can be situated on a 1 by 1? Okay, let me give you the process. Wrap your brain around this one.
Okay.
So we are printing in 2 nanometers segment. And if
I don't know what that is.
It's very, 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 very small.
Nanometer is a unit of measurement?
A unit of measurement, yeah.
As in like length, like inches, miles, nanometers.
Very, 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 very small.
Ooh, okay.
Okay, so here's
what BJ says we got 5 minutes.
Okay, I'll do this very quickly.
Okay.
So here's how they figured out to do it, right? So take like a pipette, right, and fill it with tin. And you're going to get these tin droplets to drop down through this machine. Really, really small droplets, okay? You can mess with how often they drop or how the little droplets hit the bus. You got these bubbles of tin dropping through this machine, okay? Now you take a laser, a really small laser, and you target these tin drops as they're following. The laser shoots at the tin droplet, flattens it, and then shoots again, and it heats it up and makes it ready to explode. And it hits a third time, right? And it explodes. And when it explodes, it creates a little bit of a reaction that throws a photon in one direction. The photon bounces off 7 mirrors, right? And gets then it gets exposed on the lithography. Okay. So as an engineer, what I want you to do is I'm going to drop a liquid. I want you to take a laser, shine it or aim it towards a little tin droplet, hit it 3 times consecutively, so enough so that it explodes. It creates a photon that bounces a bunch of mirrors and then impresses it on a silicon slab, right?
In midair.
In midair. And guess how many times a second these things are hit 3 times?
I don't know.
50,000 times per second. These little tin particles, little tin droplets, are hit with a laser 3 consecutive times to emit a photon to do the lithography on the silicon wafer. All right. Hard to wrap your brain around how, right? Escapes the mind, right? But that's taking on a small, atomic level, and we're doing things that are imperceivable by most people.
Inconceivable. And how did someone find out this could be done?
Right. So these guys over here take things that are even hard to describe to you. And think about the guy who was working on it, right? That has to say at your pitch deck in front of we're going to take a tin droplet. We're going to shoot it 50,000 times or shoot 50,000 different droplets per second, right?
Mm-hmm.
And emit a photon and make a computer chip. Let's go.
And do you think they knew this because they tapped into the minds of their past scientists?
Maybe. I want to be there, though. I want to be on those brilliant mind, cutting edge of, this abstract thinking, and then make it a reality in the real world. Anyway, we're out of time, everybody.
Wow, you're welcome, everyone.
Yes, blow your mind. A little bit different of a show today, and I appreciate all you listening. All right, take care.
Thank you for listening to this show on Youngstown Studio. This is original Youngstown content. Feel free to share our videos and tell your friends about us. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook.